XFL before the 2023 season. So the XFL has announced its coaching staff, and wow, the USFL is quickly being shown to have a competitor on its hands. They lost 10 coaches in a matter of days to the XFL, while also watching, of course, Larry Fedora step away from the league. We still have a full NCAA season and NFL hiring sequence to go through as well. Once the NCAA season's over, there's going to be hiring at the end, probably, sometime maybe in December. Then the NFL, those teams, and who's going to stay, who's going to go. So these are things that we need to keep an eye on. So of course, the biggest name on the list to leave is Larry Fedora, head coach. Fedora was an outspoken proponent of expansion to new hubs in the future. It seems there was a deeper reason why he wanted to coach the team in its market, which will not be happening yet. And how do we know this? Because Coach Fedora more or less told it himself in his press release, basically saying that, hey, if we get to do something in the future, at some point, once teams get settled in their home city. So he was not a fan of the hub. This essentially tells us what we need all know. Coaches and players are seeing the value in the setup that XFL offers, perhaps, whether it's because of playing in home markets or the fact that the XFL season ends earlier. It seems these factors are affecting decision-making. Fedora isn't taking a position with the XFL, but his thought process is important to note. Fedora is the only of the first of the 8 coaches to step away from the league. That doesn't mean he'll be the last for the 2023 season because of the NCAA and football, etc. Their Black Monday is typically right after the season ends, so there's a chance that we see more USFL coaches hired by the NFL just months before the USFL season starts. The big question here is whether or not the USFL starts to try hire right away, knowing that's on the horizon. The league has said that all of the 7 remaining head coaches are staying for the 2023 season. Now, 3 coordinators were lost to the XFL. Chris Dishman, the New Jersey Generals D coordinator, and the Generals had a great season. He is now the defensive coordinator of the XFL Las Vegas franchise. Unfortunate thing about those coaches who are left in particular, it was as if the biggest names ended up moving on, knowing that even if the XFL doesn't pan out, they will land on their feet. The first of these names, of course, leaked was defensive coordinator Chris Dishman. That his name has been out there. He will rejoin former teammate Rod Woodson and the Las Vegas staff. Despite never needing a developmental league to find success, he found his start coaching in NFL Europe. The start of a long career of developing players at the spring and college levels. 2005, he moved on to Menlo College. By year 3, he was coordinating defense for the first time and getting his foot in the NFL door. He has since spent 20 years coaching at various levels. Stints in the NFL, CFL, XFL 2.0, USFL, and now XFL 3.0. However, it wasn't until his 2022 stint in the USFL that he was given another chance to run his defense. He went on to coach one of the better units in the league. He helped his team to a 9-2 record overall this season, including 9-game winning streak. His performance has earned him a raise and lateral move in the XFL. Well, we don't know if he got a raise or not, but a move to the XFL. Tim Lewis, defensive coordinator from the Houston Gamblers. He is now in the XFL Arlington team. He's a longtime coach and coordinator in the professional ranks. His first job in the NFL came way back in '96, where he coached defensive backs for the Steelers. He spent 7 seasons coaching defensive backs before he was promoted to the first coordinator role in Pittsburgh. He would leave Pittsburgh in '05, making a lateral move to the Giants. Spent time with the Giants, Elf's Reign of Fire, got back into football at Pinecrest Academy. He had a head coaching position with the Birmingham Iron of the Alliance of American Football League, leading the team to 5 wins in just 8 games before what happened there. Then XFL and then Houston Gamblers. Greg McMahon, special teams tight ends for Houston Gamblers. He also left, but now he's going to go back to Houston, the XFL Houston franchise. This move is more or less proof that coaches prefer the setup in the host cities of the XFL currently. Even though the XFL is all practicing in Arlington, we got to point out, they're not in their home cities. They're playing their games in their home cities. McMahon makes a lateral move to the XFL. In the USFL's Houston named team, he will work under Wade Phillips in the latest to a long line of coaches he's worked for during his career. From Sumlin to Sean Payton to Brian Kelly, he's no stranger to star-studded staffs. Other coaches, offensive line Pat Burles, Pittsburgh Maulers. He goes to the XFL St. Louis franchise. Longtime assistant, son of former Michigan State head coach George Perlis. He has had stints at the Chiefs, Rams, Hamilton Tiger Cats, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and Riders at the professional level. He had a long stint. He originally coached at Syracuse and worked with Jim Harbaugh. So he is out. And the Maulers, we thought they would have one of the best, running games in the league, especially with Kirby Wilson. But, that whole, we all know what happened with them. Offensive line and special teams, John Himbach from the Birmingham Stallions wins a championship with the Stallions. He's over to Arlington. He will the most decorated resume of all the spring football. First of all, he won the first ever XFL championship as an offensive lineman with the Los Angeles Extreme, followed that with a World Bowl victory in 2002 with the Rain Fire. He would split the next 15 seasons between the CFL and college, winning 2 Grey Cup titles with Montreal along the way. Then he split his next 15 seasons between the CFL and various college positions, reuniting with the Spring League in 2019. That time he coached in the AAF with the San Antonio Commanders under Mike Riley. And when that shut down, he landed with Mark Trestman at Tampa Bay Vipers. So he has spent some time there as well. Defensive line, Bill Johnson of Birmingham Stallions. And Stallions is another guy, this time to the XFL Houston. Coach Johnson is tutoring players over 4 decades. Spent the first 20 years of his career in the college ranks. Spent 5 seasons with schools before moving on. The next 15 in stints with McNeese State, Miami, Louisiana Tech, Arkansas, and Texas. He's given his first chance to coach by Dan Reeves of the Atlanta Falcons. And following another season, other than Wade Phillips took over as defensive coordinator, they started the relationship that stand the test of times for over two decades. They reunited in 2017 with the Rams and now decided to get together for a third time in the XFL. Corey Chamberlain, Stallions lose another coordinator to this time to XFL San Antonio. He's a decorated coach, began his coaching career in 2006 with NFL Europe, winning the World Bowl. 2007, he began a long career in the Canadian Football League with the Winnipeg as defensive backs. Jumped to Calgary, won a Grey Cup, spent the next 3 years. Finally, 2011, he was handed his first coordinator job with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The one season, he was hired as head coach of the Rough Riders, spent 3 seasons at a 29-25 record, making the playoffs 3 times, and winning the Grey Cup in 2013. Following an 0-9 start in 2015, he was fired. In 2017, he spent the year with the Toronto Argos, doing a bunch of stuff under Mark Trestman. They won the Grey Cup. 2019, he spent 1 season in Arkansas as D-backs coach. 2019, after the Argos fired Trestman, they hired Chamberlain as their head coach. However, he was fired after a 4-15, led to a hiatus, and then he went back into winning a championship now with your Birmingham Stallions. Defensive line, Ty Warren, Houston Gamblers. He leaves for XFL Orlando. Best known as his New England Patriots Broncos. Played in the NFL from 2003 to 12. In 2007, he was named first-team All-Pro for the Patriots. By that time, he retired as a player. He had 2-time Super Bowl champion, despite both wins have come in his first 2 seasons as a player. Jumped to coaching. Lions, had a relationship with Matt Patricia. Warren has enjoyed some coaching. He accepted the Houston Gamblers. Now he's moving to the XFL to work under former teammate during his 2004 Super Bowl run, Terrell Buckley. Mark Snyder goes from the Houston Gamblers to XFL Orlando. Former safety at Marshall. Single-season record for interceptions with 10. He set in 87. Following his graduation, immediately went on to coaching. Spent seasons with his alma mater. Moved to UCF in 1998, spent 2 seasons, then at Youngstown State. They brought him in, ran the entire defense and special teams. In 2001, with Ohio State, he found a home as the linebackers coach, also serving as defensive coordinator. He returned to be the head coach of Marshall in 2005, stayed until 2009. For the next 10 seasons, coached linebackers while at times a defensive coordinator. Florida State, South Florida, Texas A&M, Michigan State, Florida State. Following the 2019 season, he took a break from the game before landing with the USFL. Now he jumps to Terrell Buckley and following Ty Warren. Paul Spicer, New Orleans Breakers. He might have been able to move up to a head coaching job, maybe. He goes to the XFL San Antonio team, known for being the NFL and CFL defensive lineman. Bulk of his career with the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2000 to 2008. Spent 1 final season at Nolans in 2009. Retired. Spent 2 years alongside Joe Cullen, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Since then, he was out of coaching until the USFL came calling in late 2021. Hired as defensive line coach for the Breakers. So now he's in the XFL. Darius Bell, MLB Arkansas Attack. So Bell should be a familiar name to XFL fans. He spent coaching the defensive backs of the Roughnecks, and he's returning to the XFL as well. He just throw him out there as he was part of that MLFB when they had that whole shortened season. So kind of threw that in there as kind of another alt guy. Wasn't involved with the USFL, but we all heard about what happened with MLFB over this summer as well. So this has already proven to be an interesting USFL offseason with a number of coaches leaving the league, and coaches' hires will now bring a new flood of information. I bet USFL News Hub will keep you up to date on all this stuff. But there's a lot of coaches to be filled. It's just going to be interesting when we get official announcement from the league as to when these coaches are getting brought on, due to all of these other leagues having, the NFL and NCAA. But we'll have to keep see where all these coaches land. But the 7 of the 8 core guys are still in place, the head coaches, that is, for the USFL's 2023 season.